7th of July, Schefferville, Fort Chimo, Kuujuaq, Frobisher Bay, Equaluit, Broughton Island. At last a clearance arrived. We had breakfast in high spirits with a crisp bright day dawning, and by 0730 hours, Zed and Bill were on their way, leaving Schefferville behind. Strong headwinds reduced ground speed to 75 knots, but at least we were moving along. Cruising at 5,000 feet above fluffy cumulus cloud, we were given a lesson on just how accurate the GPS navigation system really can be. When about 40 minutes outbound from Schefferville, we were overtaken by another aircraft flying at 2,000 feet, passing directly beneath us, without even seeing the Chipmunks. He was also en route to Fort Chimo, flying the recommended track. The countryside by now was flat and featureless, dotted with icy pools surrounded by scrubby low pines, and one wondered how the early bush pilots coped with navigation. At Fort Chimo, renamed Kuujuaq, as the old Eskimo words are now being brought back into use, we replenished and serviced rapidly and pointed our noses towards Frobisher Bay, Equaluit. A similar landscape followed, with increasing amounts of snow and ice and decreasing size and amount of vegetation. Frobisher Bay is a modern, thriving, well-equipped airport, being a designated emergency landing site for the space shuttle should ever the need arise. A supply of avgas had to be loaded onto the Islander to top up the Chipmunks at Broughton Island, as their summer supply vessel had not yet got through. Although the staff were happy to refuel the Chipmunk tanks, they were unwilling to fill our cans, which had been with us all the way from Moscow. After some delay and the odd heated word, common sense prevailed, and we were allowed to buy a 405-litre drum of avgas from Esso and load it onto the Islander. From Frobisher Bay over Baffin Island to Broughton Island, the scenery changed dramatically. Mountains towered to over 7,000 feet as we flew along fjords and through passes to avoid the climb. Lakes and sea were almost frozen, with pack ice radiating brilliant hues of green and blue to us above. Out to sea, huge icebergs cruised majestically along, slowly and silently drifting towards the south. Broughton Island was reached in 2 hours, 55 minutes, bringing our Chipmunk total for the day to 8 hours, 25 minutes, and covering 927 miles. After 4 days of enforced boredom on the ground at Schefferville, this was to be our most productive day of the whole expedition. The settlement, of about 500 souls, is served by a 3,500 feet of gravel runway with a small air traffic control building alongside. The people, mostly native Eskimos, live by fishing and the production of souvenirs, but most rely on their weekly welfare check. A total ban on the importation of alcohol is strictly enforced by the RCMP officer who met us on arrival to check on our freight. The hotel, a conglomeration of what seemed like porter cabins, was basic but comfortable, and after moving in and eating an evening meal, we returned to the airfield to decant fuel from the drum into the Chipmunk tanks and prepared for the sea crossing by changing sparking plugs and checking fuel filters. The lateness of the hour did not bother us. At 68 degrees north, the sun was still stunningly bright in the azure blue sky at 23:30 hours. We finally picketed the aircraft and returned wearily to our welcoming beds. Our last day in Canada had been long but satisfying, at a wonderfully photogenic and rugged outpost of civilization.